by guest this evening, Air Marshal R.G.K. Kapoor, a former fighter pilot, joining us on the broadcast. Thank you, sir. Dr. Swasti Rao is an author. She's a geopolitical expert. More importantly, she's an advisor to the Ministry of Defense here in India. Thank you very much. And Einar Tangen is a senior fellow at the Tahe Institute, joining us on the broadcast once again this evening. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Mr. Tangen, thank you very much for being with us on the show. My question to you is simple. One completely understands that China is making fighter jets that it wants to sell to the world. But do you need to sell a fake propaganda and fake narratives to do that? Because today you've been called out not just by the French, but by the Indians as well.
Well, I mean, your question is loaded. I mean, what if I asked you, have you stopped beating your husband? You'd say, no, that's an unfair question because you haven't established that I do beat my husband. So in this particular case, what everyone wants to know is how many and which jets. If no jets were down, then your defense minister, the general, is wrong because he said, yes, they did suffer losses. They haven't specified, so that's opaque. So at this point, the Pakistanis were the ones to announce that they were the ones who shot down the Rafale jets and also some drones. This is not the Chinese saying that. The Chinese, I'm assuming they believe them, and that there was some wreckage that was shown that seemed to indicate that it was in fact a Rafale jet. Now, throughout the world, there were questions about, well, is the Rafale jet good? I mean, quite frankly, it was sold to India, but the French never gave you the source code, which could be very useful in tweaking its performance. So that might have been an issue, but people don't know. So at this point, there were no Chinese fighter jets shot down. There was only, as far as we know, at least one French jet shot down. And people are wondering about the performance issues. And it's not just China, it's the rest of the world. In terms of arms sales, the United States has a pretty big lock on arms sales. And, you can see that quite clearly. They are very dim on anybody adopting any weapon system that is not theirs. For instance, the S-400, which both India and Turkey have, is not, the U.S. has said quite bluntly, we don't want you to have those and we don't want those technicians near our missile systems. So it is very things. But one thing I would ask you to think a little bit about, when you start looking at who's supplying who, yes, China has about 81% of the systems that are being supplied to Pakistan. But also you have Turkey that is supplying it. On the India side, you have U.S. Russia has dramatically fallen in terms of the amount they did. They used to be about over 70%. Now they're about half that. And then you have Israel, you have France. So in essence, India is depending on the colonial powers that, in essence, have been using it to supply their weapons, whereas Pakistan is going more towards the global south. It's just an irony. I'm not saying it proves anything, but it is something to take note of.
Mr. Tangen, two things. Can India really afford to buy any Chinese military hardware? No. You will simply put spying equipment on it and spy on us. The fact is the Saudis haven't trusted the Chinese either with their jet demands, right? They have rejected your fighters. The fact is in Myanmar there have been problems. The fact is that J-35s have been rejected by Pakistan also for whatever reasons. Asif Khwaja is on record to say that we are not buying it. But my question to you, sir, is this, simply this. The French intelligence report that Reuters has put out this morning is very clearly saying that China deployed its envoys to spread misinformation about the Rafales to countries that are looking to buy fighter jets so that those countries could think about buying Chinese jets. And this was done on the basis of misinformation. How do you react to that, sir?
Well, first off, either French intelligence is very bad since they're somehow leaking classified reports, or perhaps the more logical explanation is that this is leaked and it's part of French misinformation campaign because they feel embarrassed that at least one of their Rafale fighters that they are trying to sell around the world was in fact shot down. So yeah, I can understand that they're trying to reverse the narrative and things like that. And I understand that China is not going to buy, India is not going to buy Chinese-made jets. But just remember, been a number of statements by the US side saying that, yeah, all our jets have a hit the switch. We turn it off, they fall out of the sky. Same with tanks and everything else. When it comes to defense, the best is probably indigenous. And, quite frankly, India had demonstrated that they have missile technology in both the BrahMos and the Akash missiles. You are increasingly doing your own. But I do think it is a matter of trust. It doesn't matter if it's Russia, China, or Brazil, or the US. There's no trust there.